I'm going to start by reading a couple of my favorite poems from my first two books, Redmouth, which is here, and Wilder, which is down there. And it's pronounced like Wilder because I'm a contrarian and I'm just a dick. And you would think it's Wilder. That's how it is spelled. It's Wilder. I make things as difficult as possible. So Redmouth, I'll start with this one. It's a pretty elegiac book. If I had to do like an elevator pitch for it, it's about like loss and grief and how those things affect the body, pretty much. And I'll start with this one called Breach, which is a poem about disasters, I guess, and like what you do when you wake up and like the world you thought was gone, or is the home you thought was home is no longer home, or the place that was a refuge has actually turned hostile. And it starts with an epigraph from Ovid's Metamorphoses. So we've got some like Greek stuff going on here. Yeah. And it's the episode, it's after this huge like flood has like come and overwhelmed everything. And he's describing the aftermath of it. And the epigraph goes, sometimes an anchor snags in a green meadow, sometimes a curving keel may graze the vines. Breach. Sometimes you wake to find your pasture changed. Sometimes you wake a free creature and shake your horse limbs. Sometimes your future seems a heavy thing to float in. You are a flight animal, but some mornings you limp. Some mornings teem with fish you cannot digest with your horse belly. You have keen horse eyes, but underwater the colors are dim and the depths are full of teeth you cannot outswim. One morning you wake to a punctured lung and several broken ribs. This is no longer your orchard, sigh your lungs. This is no longer your nest of grass. An anchor snags on your broken chest, a keel carves your back. You wish you were made for this, that you could wake and find your posture changed, that your body could thin and blend with the waterline. You dream until the pounding of your hooves breaks the night's ground into another morning where you have not yet drowned. You know these mornings are running out. Each sun rises more dimly, sprouts less freely from the water, wavers for just an hour over the waves before surrendering. You are soon to be uncreatured, unsutured from your pasture blade by blade. Why aren't you running? Why aren't you afraid? Thank you. There's a lot of like kind of falling apart in this book and like a lot of gestures toward repair and healing, but also a lot about trauma and like lack of recovery from those things, from catastrophe. And so I'll also read the last poem in the book, which is called Prayer, and it owes its structure to a passage from the famous passage from Julian of Norwich's Revelations of Divine Love. And her passage goes, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. But this poem departs kind of radically from that message. Yay. It's called Prayer. All shall be well, and all shall be well, and all wells shall yield their missing children, and all manner of children shall feel their bedroom walls with cold hands still smelling of well water, and all men shall cover their wells, and how could they fail, and how could we all? And if we call from the bottom of a well, who shall hear? And what shall haul us out but our own hands? And when shells fall from the bowl of the sky, shall they fall into the hollows of our hands? Shall our hands explode into holes? Shall our bodies crumple like the hulls of ships? And when the well cover closes over us, and we have not called out, shall we still call out in the dark? Shall we feel the walls with our hands? Somewhere, summer turns to fall. Across the hills, the sun pulls its small light down. Yeah. So that's Redmouth, if you like that kind of thing. I'll do just like two from Wilder before doing some stuff from Meltwater. And Wilder was written during the early Trump years, and so it's a lot about disasters of various kinds, like school shootings and police brutality and fascism and climate catastrophe, you know. And it's like about what those sorts of pressures and like what that kind of dehumanization does to you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, existentially, etc. And so the first one I'll read from this book is called Poem After All the Children Have Disappeared. The body gets used to it, like it gets used to anything. Like walking slowly into a freezing lake. If you can bear the first step, you can bear the rest. soon. You've always been neck deep in this lake. Your arms have always been oblongs of ice. You've always had trouble staying awake. For a long time, I could make myself sad by remembering the faces of specific children I used to know. I swam in this sadness because I liked the way it burned. I let it rise to my ears. I let it soak the corners of my mouth until my mouth became a fat sponge. Now I can't even make my face look surprised. I can't make my face do anything. No one will even make eye contact with the school, most of which have been turned into open-air museums. Rain softens the places where the children sat or stood or hid. The placards are etched with letters and dates that we sweep with our fingers as if we're brushing away flies or the hair from someone's eyes. We rub the stones with crayon. We are forbidden from removing any bones. I stand before the mossy jungle gym and practice my surprised face. I stand near the water and practice gasping. I put my hand to my mouth and wonder why the woman in the lake is yawning. Rough, man. And then the second one I'll do is called Red Rover, like the children's game, right? Like people played that, right? And it was stressful, right? I hated it, and it was stressful. And I think, right? And I don't know if kids still play it. I kind of hope they don't, because it sucks. But here we go. This one is called Red Rover. We are placed in a field. We are told to wield our bodies against each other like wrecking balls or rockets, to target the weakest links in the chain of other children's bodies, the surfaces of skin that sweat and twitch without our willing it, the millimeters of air between the palms that cannot be gripped into disappearance, and shoot them down. Rove, to show signs of madness, to shoot randomly, to wander, to run someone through with a weapon. We pool our redness like wealth until the final soldier is caught in the net of our hands, a limp bird. Red Rover, there are worlds whose waves do not break against the bodies of children. There are worlds of wide, stagnant waters. Red Rover, send the boats of our bodies to float in those fields forever. Send wings for our arms unspooling between each other like barricade tape, gauze for the crime scenes of our shadows. If we are unmendable, weigh our brokenness with long sleep. Cast a spell over us like a sharp sheet. As ghosts, we float through each other like soft sheep bleeding. Whew.